Hey, welcome back everyone. In the last video we had the writer of the novel isekai'd into the novel he wrote himself, but as the biggest loser and the youngest son of the Maiden clan. Looking to turn his life around, he decides to go test his skills at the training annex. We start off with Hampton running after being told to make an appointment at the training annex. His thoughts are, Master has changed. As Hampton runs off, we find out that Hampton had always thought that being punished by Rasen was his own fault and because he wasn't able to serve him properly. In the next moment, we cut back to Rasen, who had noticed Hampton's ability as well. Along with his name, he finds out his main attribute is poison and his trait is Cowardly Shadow. But when did he start learning poison? He must have been waiting for a chance to come after me, he thinks. But in reality, every succession candidate of the Magic Clan is assigned a well-trained aide who's brainwashed from childhood to assist their candidate and devote their entire lives in loyalty. This was Hampton, the Shadow of the Seventh Son, a well-trained servant. Outside of the training annex, Hampton is relieved that they're there to actually go train and not to cause any trouble, but wonders why the sudden change. But he quickly decides to dismiss his thought and believe in his young master. In the meantime, Rasen is quite embarrassed at his own story writing because he built a modern building in a fantasy world, and this building just looks out of place. At the front, he's greeted by an administrator named Noah, who bows respectfully and says that it's an honor to meet the young master. But in reality, he had a grudge as well, because he's the one who Rasen slapped for not bowing respectfully enough. Inside the training annex, Rasen realizes that he can't use his divine eye on the admin, and he decides that that's because he's too strong for him, which is understandable for the admin. And so he mentally decides to treat this admin well and asks for a suitable monster to fight. But when asked for a suitable monster to fight for his age, Noah is shocked as well. Training is unheard of for this reject. And because of his past history with Rasen, he decides to mess with him in a legal way, a way that would be hard for him to blame him for. Taking in the recommendation, he recommends a mushroom monster, which Rasen's brother had defeated at the same age. This mushroom monster was the lowest ranked monster available at that training annex. As Rasen agrees to fight the mushroom monster, Noah runs off happily. In the meantime, Rasen focuses, preparing for the training that's to come. In that moment, he felt a ring in his heart, and right away understood that he's in an awakened state where he knows how to use his magic combat because of his bloodline. In that next moment, he's ushered into the mushroom forest and is told, Best of luck, sir. All of a sudden, he notices a shadow. It's the mushroom monster. Off the intercom, he's told that the mushroom monster's weak spot is his body, and is coincidentally weak to fire as well. Gathering power in his fist, he charges at the monster, but suddenly receives a notification screen that pops up saying, The will of the body has been verified, and the control magic imprinted in the body has been awoken. In that next moment, they charge each other. Seeing that this may be the moment for revenge, Noah the admin laughs, thinking that he's going to get his payback. But Rasen destroys the mushroom in one hit. Nonchalantly thinking that that was nothing, he gets another set of notifications saying that the rank of the newly awakened combat magic is beginner, that he used the awakened combat magic, and a small portion of the incomplete plausibility is being filled in, and the beginner combat magic has been fully imprinted. Additionally, he got another notification saying that the weight utilization has been imprinted on the mana circle, and instantly felt his blood boiling and power coursing through his veins. Admin Noah thinks, what in the world is this? Magic combat is magic that is accompanied by destructive physical power, and the mushroom monster is supposed to be resistant to this physical destructive power. Seeing the outcome of the fight, Noah suggests to raise the level of difficulty. To this, Rasen says that if it's too much higher, he'll be in trouble because of the lack of mana. What he left out was the fact that these red mushrooms are not only faster and stronger, but if you can't kill it fast enough, they have the ability to multiply. Deciding that he should just leave his personal feelings behind and gather information to report, he tells Rasen that if things get dangerous, he'll end the training. But because this monster was something that naturally appeared in this world, and not something he wrote about, Rasen didn't know of this ability, and so he accepts. Noah spawns the red mushroom in. Without warning, the red mushroom rockets at Rasen, which he barely manages to dodge, and creates an explosion behind him. The mushroom rockets back, and this time he's unable to dodge and takes a hit directly in the stomach. On the third time the monster attacks, Rasen pulls his hands up using his magic combat and deflects the monster. In this moment, he notices that the attack pattern is simple and grabs the monster by its head and uses his ability of weight utilization on top of his magic combat. He goes to strike the monster, but suddenly realizes that he's out of mana. And so he ends up hitting and defeating the red mushroom with a regular punch, but has the feeling that the time slowed down for a split second while hitting the monster, but can't confirm because of the lack of mana. Everyone's in shock. Hampton wonders if he was training in private. Noah also asks Hampton if Rasen's even 10 years old yet. How in the world is he this strong when he isn't even 10 yet? As Rasen comes out of the training room, they deduce that he must have been training on his own because the first circle can't be attained without effort. Hampton is proud. But to make it seem as if this was a challenge for him, Hampton pretends to collapse. Immediately, they call the healing magician on the second floor. Rasen, being a noble, only gets the best treatment. Within the next few moments, Hampton finds the healing magician asleep at his desk, who is promptly informed that the seventh young master was injured. And when informed that the seventh was injured, the healer responds, "Seventh? Not the sixth?" And to this, Hampton confirms that it is in fact the seventh. And so we go through this back and forth with Hampton and the healer confirming that it was the seventh, but the healer is in denial. Hampton once again confirms that he is the seventh aide, and the healer responds, "So the seventh young master is really here? What's that dropkick doing here?" And so Hampton quickly tells him that he defeated a mushroom monster with his magic combat. Seeing Rasen asleep, the magician realizes that if Rasen's body was broken because of the side effect of using combat magic, it'll be hard for him to fix. But not wanting to get into trouble, he decides to pretend to do something, then pass on the responsibility to better magicians, so he uses a flashy mana recovery spell into the arms of Rasen. Knowing that it wouldn't work anyways, he decides to try to finish this off quickly and send him back to the main building. But in that moment, Rasen decides that this was enough pretending and sits up. He says thank you to the people who tried to help him, but like Hera, they were all confused by his actions. These guys are confused as well. It's unheard of for the seventh to thank anyone. After the training annex, we cut back to the estate, where we see Hera holding 2 out of the 3 chocolate bars Rasen had asked for. To this, Rasen says it's fine, just leave those there. And Hera, once again, is confused, telling her that he's tired and wants her to leave the room. She says she understands, and to rest well, and leaves. At the next moment, we cut to Hera and Hampton gossiping. Hampton updating Hera saying that he went to actually train, and Hera to this is in denial. We cut back to Rasen eating his chocolate, thinking it melts immediately after entering my mouth. The sweetness soon becomes warmth, and it feels like my entire body is being covered in a fluffy blanket. But what if this isn't only a feeling? And so he uses his divine eye ability and sees that the effects of the chocolate are spreading to every corner of his body and gets a notification saying a small amount of mana has been absorbed. Suddenly, another notification appears. This time it says, "You have discovered a fragment of incomplete plausibility." This makes it feel as if his character is being more developed. The different and random probabilities are slowly being connected. Gaining mana from the chocolates is like a cheat, because normally magicians have to travel to locations abundant with mana and go through hell to try to absorb a morsel of that mana. So by eating these chocolates he gains free mana, and the only side effect? You'll get fat. Lying in his bed, Rasen decides to focus, trying to retrieve the feeling of going against that mushroom monster. As he focuses, he receives a notification saying that the attribute Slow the Flow has been activated, but in the next moment he hears a knock on the door. To the knocking, Rasen says, "I don't need anything else today, Hera." But she responds, "Young master, a guest has come to visit." And he says, "Tell him to screw off." But in the next moment, a young boy comes walking through the door. It's Carlton Mayton, Rasen's older brother and the 6th young master. Right away he comes in insulting Rasen. He immediately gets reminded of the feeling that this Carlton guy was who Rasen had been afraid of. And so right away he gets off the bed and greets his older brother. But to the greeting, the brother responds, "This is why you're no good. Everything about you is slow, like a moron." But Rasen and Carlton briefly stare at each other. but Carlton decides to teach him a lesson, raises his arm, and swings the staff down at Rasen. And in that moment, Rasen activates his ability, Slow the Flow. Seeing the staff come down in slow motion, he deflects the staff, causing it to strike the ground. The deflected staff leaves Carlton's hand hitting the ground and shattering. Seeing the staff hit the ground, Carlton asks, "What did you just do?" And Rasen responds, "I just invoked my right to defend myself." This causes his hot-headed older brother to explode in a fit of rage. Forming some mana rings, he decides to teach Rasen a lesson using magic. As Carlton goes in for a punch, Rasen sees Carlton's main attribute like he did with the Mushroom Monster. Carlton's attribute is water, and his trait is hot-headed young child. As Carlton comes in for the swing, Rasen notices 2 blue mana circles being formed on either side of his face and one near his chest. Rasen quickly dodges the punch and circles behind Carlton, looking to return the favor. In an instant, Carlton takes 2 quick blows, one into his back and the other into his stomach. Carlton immediately doubles over, coughing up blood. Rasen had thought that he had controlled his strength enough. Seeing the damage he had done, he quickly yells for Hampton to go call a healer. While waiting for the healer, Rasen has a moment of clarity. Why did his punch do so much damage? Was this because he hit him before his magic was properly formed, causing an internal eruption within Carlton's own body? Rasen may have discovered the most efficient way of facing a magician. The next morning, we come to a scene where Hera and Hampton are gossiping. Hera says that there's no way this could happen, and Hampton says that he wouldn't have believed it either if he didn't see it for himself. Hampton asks Hera if he could be honest with her. To this, Hera asks if he's going to finally tell her that he's the Shadow, and that everyone had noticed that Hampton was the 7th Shadow. But Hampton replied that he didn't think Hera was a normal maid either, as her footsteps were abnormally light and her movements were also secretive. Speaking his true opinion about Rasen, this is what Hampton thinks. With his 10th birthday coming up, the 7th young master is finally starting to make his move. All of the events that happened up until now was part of Rasen's plan. As the two are gossiping, we cut back to Rasen entering the Starlight Library, a place where he can learn how to manipulate his mana. Walking in, he notices an insane number of books. The library was the size of a shopping mall and had enough books for 3 whole floors. Thinking how many books this would add up to, he suddenly hears a person saying about 200,000 books and sees a beautiful librarian floating in front of him. Hey, thanks for coming back. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. I'll be back with the next part soon. Hey, thanks for coming